Streaming live from the beautiful city of Hollywood, Florida, USA. This is SoFloRadio.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Here we are. We got appropriately themed music today for our guest, Joseph P. Johnson, retired police officer from New York. What county in New York?
The Bronx.
The Bronx. All right, so, and we have Alexendra Bello. She's going to be showing up any minute now. We got some really nice subjects to speak about, but let's listen to a little bit of the Bad Boys right now. Inner Circle.
What you gonna do when they come for you? When you were 8 and you had bad traits, you go to school and learn the golden rule. So why are you acting like a bloody fool? If you get hot, then you must get cool. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? You chuck it on that one, you chuck it on this one, you chuck it on your mother and you chuck it on your father, you chuck it on your brother and you chuck it on your sister, you chuck it on that one and you chuck it on me. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys.
All right, we're back. First, I want to wish everybody a belated happy St. Patrick's Day, especially to my beautiful Irish wife who's in Ireland right now, in Dublin. She's waving to me, I hope. Hurry up back, honey. I miss you.
Slanta.
Slancha. That's right. So, Mr. Johnson, Joe Johnson, you're Irish yourself, is that right?
I am.
Irish-American.
There's a famous song called Johnson's Motor Car. It's about the IRA.
I wish my wife was here. She could speak to you a little bit about
we
that.
could do a little talking treason over a pot of Potter.
That's nice. So what part of Ireland is your family from?
The West Coast, Galway, Loughrea.
Okay. I'm not too familiar, except for that my wife is from Swords, which is Dublin.
Okay.
Yeah, so did you celebrate St. Patrick's Day in the usual manner?
I had my typical Irish meal, Irish tube steak and Irish caviar, which is actually hot dogs and baked beans. No corned beef and cabbage.
Well, I heard some things about the Irish stuff. There's Irish traditions that corned beef and cabbage is not an Irish dish.
Not in Ireland, it's not.
Yeah.
Over here in the States, across the pond.
And I heard that St. Patrick's Day was actually started here in America.
That I'm not privy to.
Yeah, that's right. And there are such things as leprechauns because I saw this really cool movie. It was made in 1957 with Walt Disney called The Leprechaun King. So you know that you can believe all that stuff from.
And you know who was the star of that?
Patty O'Brien.
And in the movie itself,
Sean Connery.
That's right.
That's right. He actually sang in that movie. Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
And from that movie, he was discovered for the James Bond series.
Yeah, he was quite a good-looking guy back then.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
He had a full head of hair.
Oh, he sure did. Yes, he did. Yep. And quite a good singer, too, by the way.
I used to sing that song to my daughter.
Oh, yeah, that's a typical, it's like a traditional Irish song.
I heard it and remembered it and sang it to her.
Oh, I heard it from
That's
that
how I
movie.
got it.
Oh, that's sweet.
Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
That's
You had to
right.
worry about the banshee coming to get you and giving you to come hither.
Well, I didn't go anywhere on St. Patrick's Day. I was working, and I told my wife she wasn't allowed to go out the door.
I'm sure she listened.
She did. She told me she doesn't go out on St. Patrick's Day.
It's amateur night.
That's what I hear. Yep.
It's like New Year's Eve.
So anyway, Joe, welcome to my show, and I'm glad, you and I, we've been kind of corresponding back and forth, and I've been watching progress on your project here. We're here to speak to you specifically about your documentary called Every 58 Hours.
Yes.
And I know that you have a screening coming up pretty soon, right?
Yes, on April 9th, we're going to screen a private screening of Every 58 Hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be at the Cinema Paradiso under the film Carpet event that's run by my director, Alexendra Bello, and it's at the Cinema Paradiso in Fort Lauderdale.
We'll
It'll
talk
be,
to her about that when she gets here.
When she gets here.
Yeah.
And it's going to be premiered as a private screening, along with a couple of other films. Jim Bratz, which I believe is Gaetano Fasulo's project, and John Vargas has his project, and there's a few others, and there'll be some trailers, and it's a way to highlight South Florida's talent, the directors and movie makers, and
Great.
just to get it out there for people to see. And it is a red carpet. It's very nice. I've been to a few of them. You know, it's very nice. It really is.
I'll be there. I'll definitely be there for that one.
You'll be there with your bells on.
With my bells on, yep. I want to be there because I know there's another guy that I know, that John Vargas. I'm probably going to have him on the show here with one of his projects pretty soon.
John is actually the actor who portrays the killer in my documentary.
Ah, so small world.
Yes, and I spoke to him after he did the portrayal, and he told me he really kind of had a hard time doing that because he realized that in real life, the police officer in question, Tommy Rotolo, was murdered by the person he was portraying. And when it kind of sunk in, he had some, I won't say issues, but he had some deep thoughts about portraying it.
Right.
You know,
Well, I've had conversations with actors in the past. Some of them are good friends of mine, like Dominic Daniel, and I spoke to him about that subject. When you're playing somebody who's particularly slimy, or you have to do something horrible, it takes a while for that stuff to wear off. Actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I would think that might be maybe that's a good sign for an actor. You know, if they can't shake it.
Yeah, well, you know, you got to live with what you do. Whether it's acting or in real life, this is something, you know, it's your personality. People have to live with what they do, and it's a problem for some people, you know. You look at some of these actors, they have breakdowns after so many years. It's a Jonathan Winters. He used to go to the loony bin every 6 months just to get out of the characters that he would do. I mean, poor Robin Williams, really. He suffered from depression, and you know, it was just the tears of a clown, you know. And he wound up, how many of these poor guys do this? It's a shame.
You never know, because they make us laugh, and
they're crying inside the whole time.
They're such good at acting that you know, we can't really see that. They don't really show it too much. But tell me about yourself, Joseph. You are from New York. Give me a little personal history about how you ended up down here.
I grew up in North Manhattan in a section called Inwood. It's basically like West 207th Street and Broadway. It was a very quiet Irish, German, Jewish neighborhood. Columbia University had their football stadium up there. We used to go and watch their football games. Their record was 0-20. They never won a game. It was incredible, but it was a fun place to go and see. Inwood Hill Park had a huge preserve. It was a natural park. It's actually where the Lenape Indians sold Manhattan Island to Peter Stuyvesant for $24 in beads and wampum. And there's a memorial rock up there. I grew up there. It was a wonderful place to live. After I got married, I lived in the Bronx, and I became a police officer, and I was assigned to the 41st Precinct in the South Bronx.
Isn't that the famous precinct?
Yeah, it's Fort Apache, the Bronx, where Paul Newman made the movie in 1981.
And what years were you?
I got there in just the end of 1981, and I was there till the end of 1984. I stayed. Then I left the 4-1 and went to the Bronx Task Force. After I went to the Bronx Task Force, I went to the 4-9 precinct in the East Bronx off Pelham Parkway. And I had an accident and was transferred. And then I had another car accident where I was almost killed. I was hit broadside, hit a tree, and flipped 3 times. I had massive injuries.
On duty?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Boy.
So I wound up retiring because of that accident. And the devastation that I incurred, I had almost 90 fractures. I broke almost my entire upper torso. Lungs were punctured. Hips were broken. So after many years, the arthritis set in, and I wound up, I couldn't stay in New York with the cold weather. I came down here in 1999, and I've been here ever since. I private investigator down here. I'm a notary, and one night I got a phone call to go do a private notary for a Hollywood director who was the second or the first AD on the Glades, and we got talking, and he wound up putting me on the Glades as a detective in the squad room, and the rest is history.
Ah, so that's how you got the film bug?
More or less, it kind of spoiled me because now I can't look at a television show without looking at everything and not looking at the show anymore.
Yeah, I know how that is. Yeah, you start critiquing.
Oh, God, yeah. I find everything that's wrong. I'm like, why can't I just look at the show and not...
Damn it.
Yeah, but...
So, how about just while you were there, I mean, now you're working on this documentary. It's called Every 58 Hours, and it's about... Well, every 58 hours, a policeman is killed on the line of duty.
Yes.
What got you started on this project?
Well, you know what? In the last 6 to 8 months, there's been a lot of bad publicity. Cops are dying at an alarming rate. And it just seems that cops are just taking a lot of heat. From the public and from politicians, that no matter what they do, they're constantly under attack. So, I decided, since I'm kind of like in this business, even though I'm a newbie and everything, I decided to try and put something together and explore the possibilities of making a documentary. And when I started doing some research, I found that on the average of every 58 hours, a police officer or a law enforcement officer is killed in the line of duty. It's amazing that the public isn't really aware of this. Cops are killed all the time. Law enforcement officers die all the time. They have heart attacks while they're on duty. There was a lieutenant just yesterday or the day before in Pell City, I believe it was Alabama. He was helping extract kids who were trapped in a car after a car accident, and while he was doing it, he had a heart attack and died on the spot.
Stressful jobs.
Very stressful. Very stressful.
Yeah.
And then you have young guys who are trying out for SWAT teams or the like, and while they're in taking a physical test or an endurance test, they wind up having heart attacks and dying. And then you have guys that are run over when they're making a car stop. Or you have guys that are shot and killed. You have guys that are stabbed. You have guys that are thrown out windows. It's amazing.
Yeah, I heard that the most dangerous call to go on is just a domestic disturbance.
Sure, because when an officer or 2 officers go into a situation when there's a family fight, and the husband is fighting with the wife, or the wife is fighting with the husband, when it comes time to restrain the husband or the wife, and the other takes now exception to it, when the back is turned, and this is what happens. There was a police officer.
No-win situation.
There was a police officer in the Bronx, a police officer in the 50th precinct. They were up there to break up a family fight, and the husband picked up a mirror and threw it. And the mirror broke, and a piece of glass severed his femoral artery.
Ooh.
He died 8 hours later from shock.
So there's a lot of, the mood in the country, of course, is kind of there's a big movement of anti-police because of the shootings of unarmed black men. Do you have any thoughts on that? I bet you do.
Well,
I mean, I don't want to get you off subject. It's kind of on subject anyway.
It is because, there are laws in this country, okay? And the laws say you cannot attack somebody. I don't care if it's a cop or another person. Once you attack somebody, you're committing a crime. If you're told not to do something by whether it's an authority figure of a police officer or even a fireman, if he tells you you can't do something, he has the authority to tell you not to do it. If you don't want to do it and then you retaliate for whatever reason, you're now committing a crime. You've escalated the situation, okay? And by you escalating the situation, that situation has to be met with the appropriate force. Once you start trying to steal somebody's gun or you try to take somebody's gun, that now becomes a robbery, and you don't know what that person's going to do with that gun if they get it away from you. Are they going to kill you or a third person? So now that has to be stopped, and it has to be stopped any way possible.
Well, I agree with that. But would you speak to this? I think there's a perception out there, and it might be rightfully so. Let's say you're a police officer. You have to deal with pretty much the dregs of society, day in and day out. So if you're in a neighborhood where you're seeing this type of behavior that, the reason why police officers exist is to keep, prevent crime, or not prevent crime, but to actually keep the regular, normal people away from, the criminal element. You think that it might, after a while, ever get jaded by that, or, pick up an attitude like, oh, man, I got to go into this neighborhood and everybody in this neighborhood is X, Y, Z or whatever?
Everybody gets jaded in any job, no matter what, sooner or later, okay? Nobody goes into a job thinking that they are going to hate the people they're going to deal with, okay? And nobody goes, as a police officer, goes into a job thinking that when they strap on that gun and pin on that badge, they're going out that night to kill somebody. Okay, sure. That's the last thing on their mind, okay? But the first thing on their mind and the first duty is to go home, and they go home alive, okay? Too many times cops go to the hospital, and obviously too many times every 58 hours, one of them goes to the morgue, okay? And when they die, that's not just affecting them. It affects their family. It affects society.
Sure it does. Because
if you are willing to kill a police officer or to run a police officer down, that means you're willing to kill anybody, okay? That officer, that uniform is a representative of society. So you'll attack society, you'll attack anybody. Now, last year alone, you had 125 cops killed in the line of duty or died in the line of duty. 4 of them were females. 20 canine dogs were shot, killed in the line of duty also. This year alone, 27 cops have died in the line of duty.
It's only March.
And it's only March. That statistic of every 58 hours is down somewhere about 40 hours now. And, in the 1920s, that was like probably the 1920s was the deadliest decade for cops to be killed. It was amazing. You had over 300 killed in a year. And it's amazing. That's why I wanted to make this documentary, okay? I don't believe that the people really do hear the truth about how many cops die, whether, again, like I said, whether they're shot, they're stabbed, they're beaten to death, whether or not, they die of disease. They die whether or not they run over by accident, they have a heart attack. It's amazing how many different ways people die that you just don't hear of. And
I also know that there's a lot of problems within the family too. I mean, if you're married to a police officer, you have to worry about if they're coming home at night.
There's a lot of suicides among cops too. There's a lot of suicides among cops that, they try, a lot of people say, that's a big job. It's not, anybody can do that job. Really? When your arms are, when you're up to your elbows in a victim's blood, okay, and you're trying to breathe life into a baby because nobody else can get there, and you're the first ones to get there.
Yeah,
not that I have anything against firemen, okay? Firemen sleep in the house. That bell goes off. They come out. Cops are on patrol. They're the first responders to get to a situation, whether it's a baby that can't that's choking or is bleeding. I mean, you're the first ones there, and you have to act appropriately, whether it's first aid, whether or not you have to talk somebody off a bridge or whatever. Right. And they're going to try and take you with them. So, I mean, these are the situations you have no idea what you're walking into when that radio goes off, because they may tell you that it's, a dog that was hit in the street. And then when you get there, there's 3 guys with guns. You have no idea.
Yep.
So, but my documentary is basically... the reenactment that I did is I'm very intimately involved with, because.
So is this based on a true incident?
This is a true story. On February 14th, 1984, it was Valentine's Day. I had gotten into work with my partner Kenny Stevenson, and we looked at the roll call. We had been assigned a sector. And Tommy Rotolo and his partner for the night, Tanya Braithwaite, were assigned to go to a detail in Manhattan down at Radio City Music Hall. It was a Menudo concert. They take a couple of cops from every precinct and they send them down to these details for crowd control. For some reason, Tommy was going to be transferred a week later to headquarters, because he was, I won't say he was a genius, but he was extremely smart when it came to computers. And back then, he would be very desirable to go work in headquarters in the Management and Information Systems Division, which
was getting off the streets.
He was going off the streets for good. So I think he wanted to stay. We agreed to switch. Of course, we like to go to Manhattan. Of course, we're stuck in the Bronx. So, however it happened, okay? Tommy stayed. We went to Manhattan. So, they took our place. We took their place. And while we were downtown, we went to the Associated Press cafeteria, because they told us to go get something to eat before the concert actually started. And while we were upstairs in the cafeteria, one of the reporters or somebody came over to us and handed us a teletype, and on the teletype it said 3 cops shot, 2 dead on 149th Street and Bruckner Boulevard, which was our borderline of the 40th precinct and the 41st precinct. So I went and I called the station house, and they told us what happened, and we went back to the station house. We just drove directly to Lincoln Hospital, and Tommy was already, he was in a cubicle with a sheet over his head. He was dead. And Tanya was in another cubicle being worked on. What happened was there was a report of a robbery of a moped at gunpoint, and while they were driving around the precinct looking for the suspect, they pulled into a gas station after they saw the suspect who fit the description of the robbery suspect. And when Tommy got out of the car to confront him, the guy just wheeled with a gun and fired 1 shot and hit him over the left eye and killed him instantly. He never had a chance. He never got his gun out. He just shot him dead. So Tanya ran around the car to get to him. She was firing shots, and she got shot in the back while she was trying to get around the car. On the other side of the gas station was an off-duty cop who happened to witness all this. He took out his gun. He engaged the killer in a gunfight. He, in turn, was himself shot and shot the killer, Tommy's killer, also. And because the guy was so stoned and on drugs, he was able to actually limp away into the night. He was captured many hours later, but Tommy was dead. Tanya was shot, and Dino was shot. Hippolito Padilla was shot. So I decided that this was probably the easiest, since we knew the facts, to reenact. And I scouted locations for a gas station that looked the most like New York, and we found one in Coral Springs, and we set it up, and Alexendra was the director, and Gaetano Fasula was the director of photography. Jamil Malik was to portray Tommy. Cheryl Frazier played Tanya. I played Dino Padilla. And John Vargas played George Agosto, the killer. And the crew... Sorry.
That's okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I think you actually gave us a little video clip here.
There's a clip. NBC Miami 6 was there, and they shot some footage and then showed it on the news that night. If you want to run that.
Yeah, let's run that for a second there. Okay, we'll run that and maybe take a little break at the bottom of the hour.
Okay.
And we'll be back right after that on SoFloRadio.com.
Gunshots erupt as police officers collapse to the ground. A South Florida filmmaker used a local gas station as the scene of a brand new documentary. The real-life events in this eye-catching reenactment behind me are more than 3 decades old. NBC6 reporter Stephen Schuler joins us now live with the story from Coral Springs. Stephen.
Many people actually called 911 as they drove by. This scene looking and sounding so real. These are a couple of the blanks used to recreate that shootout, a story the local filmmakers say is so important to share with the world.
Hey, what are you doing?
Tommy!
It started with gunshots. Then police officers hitting the ground and a suspect on the loose. The real-life story of a police officer's murder in the South Bronx playing out in front of TV cameras in Coral Springs.
Action!
I was a cop in the South Bronx with Tommy the night this happened, and it's something that you just never get over. You know, that will stay with me for the rest of my life.
Joe Johnson remembers the tragic night well, Valentine's Day of 1984. His colleague, New York City police officer Thomas Rutolo, shot dead outside a gas station. 2 other officers seriously injured by gunfire.
Without warning or any justification of whatsoever, the killer turned, pulled a gun, and shot him, killed him, hit him right between the eyes.
Drop that gun!
Johnson is now paying tribute to Rutolo and hundreds of other officers who lost their lives in the line of duty with a dramatic TV pilot titled Every 58 Hours.
Fact is, there's a law enforcement officer that dies every 58 hours, and that's an alarming statistic that most people don't even realize.
What are you doing?
Tommy, gun!
Local radio personality Rich Stevens is narrating the documentary. He says it's an honor to highlight the sacrifices of the law enforcement community, especially in light of the recent assassinations of 2 officers in New York City.
And now that the 2 officers who unfortunately were shot in a very similar way just a couple of weeks ago, that brought everything back to the forefront even more so.
Johnson plans to present his pilot at film festivals and shop it around to networks in hopes of producing a series honoring other fallen heroes. He says Rutolo was a newlywed, set to adopt a son, and 1 week from a promotion that would take him off the streets. His life cut short, but his legacy everlasting.
He'll never get to dance at his son's wedding, and his wife, she grows old alone. Because his life was snuffed out in this way, we have no idea what he could have accomplished.
Johnson tells us he picked this gas station because the brick facade resembles a building in the Northeast. Rutolo's killer was captured hours after the crime, and he remains behind bars on serving a 40-year sentence. Live in Coral Springs, Stephen Schuler, NBC6.
Here's the latest ratings you asked for.
What is this? Where did all our listeners go?
SoFloRadio.com.
SoFlo, what channel is that on?
It's online, sir. Wi-Fi radio.
Oh, I see.
But what channel is it on?
Put your business on the leading edge of media advertising with the SoFloRadio.com network. Unlike antiquated AM or FM radio, your professionally produced 30 or 60-second ad will be heard live on SoFloRadio.com during the day and will be downloaded thousands of times a day on SoFloRadio.com, as well as being heard on our free podcasts on iTunes. Wi-Fi radio and Bluetooth are now available with BMW, Ford, GM cars and trucks. Don't get left behind. Contact SoFloRadio.com for details and our very affordable rates. SoFloRadio.com. Stay ahead of the game.
Strawberry patch and smoothie.
Get your hands off me.
Huh?
I said don't touch me.
I shouldn't have went to that party last night. Now I'm seeing talking fruit.
You're not dreaming, Bubba, and you're not putting me in that blender.
But you're just a fruit.
Who you calling a fruit?
You are. You're a delicious passion fruit.
Why, sure, I'm passionate. How would you like to be blended, huh? I got right, you know.
Customers waiting. You gotta go.
Yeah, but wait, you can...
At Power Smoothie in Aventura, we show fruit no mercy. Always fresh, always delicious. To make the best smoothies and wraps on earth, try our new cilantro lime-alicious wrap or our hot chipotle chicken. Power Smoothie in Aventura, located just north of the Aventura Mall in the Promenade Shops. Or call 305-792-5338. Open 7 days a week. Put a team of professional consultants behind your home or business computer with Key Information Solutions, providing solutions to your internet and computing needs while keeping you on the cutting edge of technology. Preventative maintenance and networking support, hardware and custom-built computers. Let Key Information Solutions be your personal tech staff for your home or office with affordable hourly, monthly, or annual rates to fit anyone's budget. Call Key Information Solutions now, 954-973-3374. That's 954-973-3374. Or visit keyinformation.com.
Why bother listening to those other douchebags while we've got everything you need right here? SoFloRadio.com. Radio you've missed.
Chase your tail again, sweet girl. These are the best times in your little world. The tiny, great, big problems seem impossible to face. But with a little faith, nothing is impossible.
All right, thanks. That was an interesting little clip there. And how did you get the newscasters to be involved during that? I mean, that was a shoot that you were doing, right?
Yeah. When I knew that we were going to be doing the reenactment, I had sent out some press release. You know, I don't know if you really want to call it a press release. I sent emails out to the newspapers and the local televisions telling them about the project, and I didn't expect anything. The Sun Sentinel the week before had done a short article, and it was in the Sunday News that Sunday. The reporter, I met a reporter there, and they took some video and they took some still photographs, and that those were published in the Sun Sentinel. They have a video version of the newspaper, and that was part of it. And then out of nowhere, I had no idea, but NBC6 showed up and they started filming. I was like, sure, be my guest. So
looks like they got there right at the right time too.
Yeah, they did. They got it. But I knew what this was going to entail, and I notified the city of Coral Springs, and I hired off-duty Coral Springs cops because, I knew what was going to happen. if there was going to be cops in uniform firing shots and gunshots and everything. I knew this from being in New York. You just can't pull up and have people shooting.
That type of thing, no.
So even with that, like the reporter said, 911 was flooded with calls. There's New York City. What are New York City cops doing in the gas station and getting shot? What's going on here? And what's funny is a guy came in the gas station from the backside, which apparently the PA, the production assistant, didn't cover. And as you can see in the news clip, as I'm running past the cameraman who are filming me, he comes around the corner as I'm shooting the 5 shots. He almost lost it in his drawers. And he says, Jesus Christ, what? Well, I said, who told you to come in here? I said, go inside and get what you want and get the hell out of here. He started laughing. He said, thank God it wasn't real. I said, well, that was pretty funny. He got out of there real fast, though.
Yeah.
But,
we were talking a little bit off air about this subject matter, the police getting killed in the line of duty. I personally have a project that I've been working on and waiting for the right time to do, which is going to be maybe my next project. And that's the same subject matter, policemen getting killed in the line of duty. The focus of my project, it's not a documentary. It's that time that let's say when a police officer is actually, shot, or there's a call there's an officer down,
right, to
the time that a next of kin is actually notified.
Okay.
So it goes between those times there, which can be very, if you think about it, the wife is at home waiting, or whoever is waiting at home, and this guy's going through surgery or that type of thing. So it could be the two scenes can be very contrasting. And I'm kind of figured, like, on average, how long does it take from if there is an officer that's been shot and to the time that their next of kin is notified?
Well, you have to understand, if as like in this case, when Tommy was killed, his wife lived up in Dobbs Ferry, New York. So he was already dead. It's not like he was in the hospital and they were working on him.
Mm-hmm.
When that happens, they will send somebody to get them immediately and transport him to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
He was already gone. All right, he was gone before he hit the ground.
Sure.
So what they did was they got one of his partners who was off duty, Tony Rotano, and had him come to work. They sent Tony with an inspector up to Dobbs Ferry to get Tommy's wife.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment she answered the door, she knew he was gone. But for your project, again, this is something you're going to have to decide. Is he dead, or is he just wounded and being worked on? Okay.
Right.
If he's wounded, they will rush to the home to get her to the hospital.
Okay.
If he's gone, they will still go and make the notification and then bring her to the hospital.
Okay.
So it all depends on how fast, but the filming of something like this is from the moment of the shooting or the
call for
the
officer
call,
down.
the 1013 or the call officer is down, to when they go there. It all depends on your filming capabilities.
Is it like an hour and a half, 2 hours?
You know what? It all depends on how fast they want to get her to the hospital. Okay, if he is seriously wounded and they want her there before he, if he's likely to die, they will want to get her there as soon as possible. If there's an open investigation, it all depends. There's a lot of different circumstances. I'll be more than happy to sit down with you and
we'll
go
talk
through this.
Absolutely, yeah. You'd be a wealth of information there.
I would hope so.
Yeah, especially since you're already working on a project just like this.
Yeah, well, what I'm hoping is that at some point in time, this documentary is seen by somebody that realizes the potential of I mean, last year there was 125 people that you could make reenactments on.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. The year before, you have 116.
Well, I was going to ask. I wrote a little note here with this atmosphere, which I think is kind of like anti-police,
right?
And your documentary. What was it that? What do you hope when somebody comes and they sees your documentary? What do you hope that they get out of that?
I hope they get out of it the fact that cops are human beings, okay? They're fathers, okay? They're mothers, they're brothers, they're sisters, okay? They're not just Nazi stormtroopers like most people think, that we have no feelings, okay? We have feelings. We hurt, we bleed, like I said, we have feelings, I give guys a lot of credit, women a lot of credit. I was a short time. I only did just over 5 years. But you look at some of these guys that have done 20, 30 years. The longest serving detective in just died in New York. He never took a sick day. Never. And he died a month before retirement.
Oh, man.
A month before retirement, he just passed away in Staten Island.
Wow.
Okay, one of the I've been, there's been a lot of I won't say controversy over this, but there's been people who are pro this documentary and some people who are not so much behind it. But one of the guys that worked in the 4-1 for many years, and he's actually the highest decorated detective in the city of New York, Ralph Friedman. He's a retired detective. I've gotten more encouragement from Ralph than almost anybody else.
To do this documentary?
To do this. He said, I don't care, Joe. You need to get this done. I mean, this guy, he's killed 4 people, and he's been justified 4 times. He's actually got a tattoo justified with the number 4 on the web of his hand. Ralph is probably one of the nicest, sweetest men you'd ever want to know, but his partner back in the day was Bobby DeMattis, who became my partner in the 4-1 after Ralph got transferred. I learned more from these guys in the short time I was there than I could possibly have gotten from any police academy or anything else. I knew what to look for long before I knew what to look for. When I say this,
what's one of those things that he told you that you could tell us to watch out for?
Just look at somebody's eyes. Look at somebody's eyes. I mean, you could walk down the street and just watch somebody constantly touching their side underneath their jacket or underneath their shirt, and it is 99, 44, 100% of the time it's because they had a gun, and it was. They had a gun under there. They're not used to carrying a gun, so they always went to check to see if they had that gun. And you know what? A lot of times you got the gun, you locked the guy up for the gun, but it got thrown out in court. But you know what? I really didn't care because the gun was off the street.
Right.
And they weren't getting the gun back. So with that gun off the street, maybe it saved somebody's life.
So you just want to show cops are human too. I mean,
cops are human.
People
would
think that automatically, but
no, they don't. All they see is that uniform. All they see is that they go out and they drive around and they harass people and they do things. It's because there's laws. Without laws, you'd have anarchy. And you got to understand that you think about how many guys die, how many girls die. And like I said, their mothers and their fathers, their sisters and their brothers. September 11th is still the deadliest day in American law enforcement. 72 cops and law enforcement officers, local, state, and federal law enforcement officers died in the line of duty that day.
They just ran straight
up there.
Since
then, you've had well over 1,000 more cops firemen, and other first responders have died direct result of sickness from 9/11, and they are not being counted as line of duty people.
Really?
And the money that's being supported, the money that was passed by the federal government for these people for treatment is now in danger of being rescinded.
Just another thing, huh? Well, we want to welcome to the show
Alexendra Bello.
Hi,
Hello,
guys. Thank you so
Alexandra.
much for having me.
Sure, yeah. You're only 45 minutes late, but that's okay.
I'm sorry. I'm late.
That's okay. That's
It
traffic.
took me only like 15 minutes to find parking because I didn't want to pay.
See.
I'd have given you the money.
But I don't know how it works. Like, I never know which ones are the paid spots and how much is it. I never carry cash or anything.
Me either, not anymore. It is free parking now.
I found a free parking spot.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the show. We've been talking a lot about the project here. We went through some, personal history and the making of the reasons why we're making it. And so now we're going to welcome Alexandra here, who's actually, you're the director of the project. Is that correct?
Yes, but he's the expert in all these matters. So you've had Golden with him on the show. About
definitely.
Every 58 hours.
Well, before we go any further, I want to take this opportunity to thank Alexendra Bello
Thank you.
for being the consummate professional that she is in
try.
getting this made, being the driving force behind it, putting the crew together, putting the editing together. I'm pulling my hair out, and she's sitting there moving this and shaking that, and I'm like, I don't know, this is insanity. But she gets it done, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I'm ready to shoot somebody, and she's getting it done, and it's amazing. I give you so much credit. It's not funny. You're going to deserve that entire $9.68 that I'm going to pay. So you're well deserved.
Thank you so much. I am, I'm happy to be part of this project. We started this back in September when we started talking about it, and we see a bright future for it. Not only for a documentary itself, but for a sequence of projects that bind each other. So that's very interesting.
Sequence of projects?
Yeah, we're looking into it. I mean, we also probably by the summer we're gonna start talking about our next documentary. But we have 3 or 4 on the table that we have mentioned this would be interesting or this would get a lot of people to pay attention to it.
And
good.
I've already turned Steven Spielberg down 3 times. He's called.
Yeah.
I won't answer the phone anymore.
He keeps calling me too, but
isn't he a pain?
Yeah, he is. He's a pain, and he keeps calling me, and I don't know. Every time I pick it up,
the only one that
nobody's called.
The only one I'll answer the phone for now is Tommy O'Brien.
Tommy O'Brien, yes, our friend that moved to Georgia. I heard he's doing pretty well up there. It's just a little side note, right?
He is.
Yes,
he keeps getting these phone calls from Hollywood. I don't know.
That's a good thing.
Yes,
he doesn't know. So.
Yeah.
I hope he would have been here for Film Carpet because we're going to have it again in April.
Yes, tell us about that.
Well, we're going to have it at Cinema Party. So
what is it, Film Carpet?
Film Carpet is a private screening event where a couple
you started?
Yeah, I started it because I needed to show my movie, right? So when I went and rented the theater, I said, I'm not going to use the 3 or 2 hours that they give me. So I might as well call a couple of friends to see if they want to join me and show their private screenings because I'm probably not going to fill the theater 200 people either. I thought I might bring 100 people, but that gives room for other people to also promote their stuff.
You got John Vargas is one of them, right?
Yeah, so for this one, we have John Vargas showing Nothing to Lose. We have Gaetano Fazulo, Carl Remy, and Stacy Steele showing Jim Bratz. And we have Andrew Sosa showing Slumber. And our project, Joe Johnson and I, with Every 58 Hours.
I had Andrew Sosa on the show one time. Maybe we could bring somebody else that's going to be nuts. It's April 9th, right?
Yes, we also have Alicia de Brito Carreno is going to have music. One of her music videos going to be playing.
Birds and Bees.
Not that one.
No.
One of my my favorites. Before the Calm Before the Storm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna have that. Diana Rice is also going to bring a couple of projects, and we are going to feature a nonprofit called Points for Love with their music video. To create awareness about ALS and about cancer. So we're
that's great.
We're going to have amazing people there. We're going to have another nonprofit also supporting, coming out and checking what we're doing, called Plan B Project for teenagers to create films with each other. So I'm going to be working with them closely.
That sounds great. I'd love to give you guys the opportunity to come on and talk more about this, because that's what we do here on the show. Is we like to speak with original bands when I can get them in, musicians, filmmakers, and world shakers. And the world shakers, I believe, we have here today. You guys are filmmakers and all that, but when you do something to help out society through the arts, that's the one category that I admire the most to bring here on the show. So
yeah,
I appreciate that you guys are doing that.
It's good that you're here to allow that.
Yes, thank you so much for having us on the show, and thank you for what you do as well, because you are also a world shaker, and I always see how you're bringing people on the show. I follow you on Facebook. I was looking for your personal Facebook the other day, and I couldn't find it. So
yeah,
I said,
couldn't find yours either. It was weird.
It was very
all I found
weird.
was your production thing.
Maybe you two should hire a private investigator to find each other.
Yeah.
I had to talk to your wife and tell her, like, can
She
you talk
did tell
to
me
Rick,
that,
please?
yeah.
You could contact his wife in Ireland, but you couldn't find him in Florida.
Exactly.
Oh,
Isn't that
boy.
weird?
Okay, there you go.
Oh, well, we'll have to become Facebook friends after this, because I'd like to speak to you more about some of these other projects. I was telling Joe that one of the first screenplays that I wrote, that I've been really waiting for the right opportunity to do, is basically on the same subject matter. It's tentatively entitled the phone call, which is, the kind of euphemism that they use when somebody's killed on the line of duty. They don't get. I know they don't get a phone call, but that's kind of like the phrase that they do. And so we were talking about that. I'm doing that project.
If I may, instead of the phone call, maybe you would consider calling it the notification.
Sure, or something like that. I'll find a cooler word than notification. But
that's how
it's
done.
It's
the notification. You're going there to notify them in person. So you could say it's the notification.
Definitely
something.
We'll talk about it. Matter of fact, why don't we talk about it sometime after the show?
Sure.
I'd love to talk to you about that, because I was speaking with a couple of guys from the BSO about that. A guy named Patrick Noble, who's works with the Pompano BSO,
right.
And he was giving me some good insight. A couple of guys were telling me, no, they don't. You don't get a phone call. Right. They send a designee there, and as far as like the person who was actually sent to the home is somebody that they know, basically.
Yeah, you would usually find somebody who knew the family personally. Okay, and they wouldn't go alone. They would usually send somebody of rank along with the officer that knew the family personally, and possibly a member of the clergy for their deity.
Sure.
Like I said, NYPD has chaplains for almost every religion. You have Catholic, you're Jewish, Protestant,
sure.
and Baptist, and they would accompany them. It's a duty that must be done, and it's probably an honorable position. But again, anytime you have to notify anybody that their loved one is gone, it's not an easy duty, especially when it's somebody that you personally know.
Sure.
We were talking about this. If it's not an officer, if it's just somebody in the neighborhood that's their family may have been hit by a train down in 42nd Street, and they live up in the Bronx, they would notify the precinct where the family lives, and the precinct would send a radio car team over to the family's residence and knock on the door and inform them in person. There is no phone call on a death notification.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. You may consider it. Television will, make a phone call, but it's not done in person. It's too impersonable because you don't know how the person's going to react. The person could have a heart attack and drop dead.
I have a question for you, or not really a question, but The project that I wrote, and I wrote it a few years ago, basically focused on that time between a call, which is put in, there's an officer down,
right,
and then the time when the first of kin is notified. There's a lot going on there with those two people. This person here, the officer, is either struggling for his life or, there's a lot going on. But the other scene, of course, is the wife who's waiting for her husband to come home, who might be late, So, but since then, with these, the police shootings and the riots and this atmosphere of like, anti-police, or the police are, shooting unarmed people, whatever, I want to evolve it a little bit so that, maybe I can help that situation out a little bit there. I don't really know how, but except the one thing is the best way to do it is just show the truth. One way, this is what happened with this person, the police officer. This is what happened with this person. Yes, it's tragic, but at least everybody sees the truth from both sides of view.
Yeah. Well, I always say that there's three sides to every story. Your side of the story, your side of the story, and then the true side of the story. And there's many movies that show the different variations of a story. They show it from your point of view, then they show it from your point of view, and then they show it from the middle point of view. And that's a great way to show, if the wife is sitting at home and she may hear of a report that a police officer was
She
shot.
does in my project, yeah.
And the officer is on the scene, and they know that it's being broadcast and everything,
right.
and they're making sure that the officer's name is not broadcast until they can get somebody over there to let her know, okay, he's shot,
drama.
He's shot, but he's still alive. Let's get her to the hospital.
Right.
Or maybe we don't want to tell her he's gone.
Right.
Let's get her to the hospital and tell her while she's at the hospital. But sometimes you just have no choice to tell her that he's gone. In the case of Rotolo, there was no choice.
Well, I want to evolve my thing a little bit to show the point of view of the person who did the shooting, which in my case is a young kid who's, even it was an accident, and he's coerced by inner city gangs.
I think
which that's a big deal. That's a big part of the story when you think about it. If we can just do something about this gang recruitment, or that atmosphere of like no snitching, or the cops are bad, if we can get into those neighborhoods,
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
they get that prison attitude, like everybody thinks that they should live their life like they're in prison.
Yeah.
You're not in prison. The snitching is not snitching; it's telling the truth.
Exactly. You're not snitching when you're telling the truth, and you're not definitely defamating anybody. I think you should include that point of view, and I also recommend you, from what you have given me, I also recommend you to include the notification officer point of view as well.
Sure, that's a good idea, because
that you should do as
that's
well.
Heck of a job, when you think about it. Well,
I just want to, in this last couple of minutes, just make a couple of some observations.
Absolutely, Joe. This is your show, my friend. That's why you guys are here.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I just, like I said, I just wanted to touch on this. We decided to do this because, like I said, every February 14th, every year when this February 14th comes around, I have some issues because it haunts me. It haunts me because I don't know what could have happened if we didn't trade places that night.
Right.
Okay, but I just don't know. I really don't. It's still to this day, and it's many years, from '84 to now, so 31 years. But I like I said, I wanted to thank Alexandra. I want to thank my daughter Lacey Johnson, Jamil Malik, Cheryl. I don't want to use her last name for obvious reasons. John Vargas, Gaetano, Fasulo, Tommy O'Brien, Professor Tom Dodson, Nina Trefruno, Gabriel Kipling Tyner, and last but not least, Rich Stevens. Rich, we know your dear mother is in your thoughts and prayers after her spinal surgery yesterday, and all the other crew members who made this come to pass. I want to thank everybody who has contributed to this documentary, whether it was with money, support, with props, and especially the encouragement that I got to get this story told. I want to thank Hippolito Dino Padilla, who I portray in the reenactment. Dino is the off-duty officer who we spoke about, who shot Tommy's killer that night. I recently spoke with him by telephone. God bless Dino. Thank God you're alive. And again, Ralph Friedman, the most decorated detective in the history of the city of New York. You have been the encouragement to me the most, Ralph, and thank you. I hope you're listening.
Thanks,
and
Joe. Hey,
Rick, thank you for having us on the program.
Absolutely, sir. It was my pleasure. Could you just tell us, Alexandra, when your screening is again?
April 9th. It's a Thursday night, April 9th. 2015 on Cinema Paradiso in Fort Lauderdale, right by the courthouse, right there. Very easy to find. We're going to be there from 6:30 till 10:30 p.m. So we're gonna have a reception and a red carpet that is gonna take an hour and 30 minutes, and then we're gonna go into the theater to watch the 4 projects, 2 performers sing live and perform live, and we're going to have a couple of speakers. We're gonna have Rose Warner, one of the speakers, and we're gonna have all the directors kind of give them 3 or 4 minutes to thank their audience and thank their cast and crew.
So April 9th, Cinema Paradiso. Starting at what time again?
6:30.
6:30. So looking forward to seeing that, Joe.
As they say, be there or be square.
Thanks again. Let me shake your hand one more time.
Thank you very much.
Alexandra, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so
that's
much.
my show this week, and you guys stay safe out there, and I appreciate you being here. Next week, I'm not quite sure who's going to be on, but it's going to be somebody from the music world, or another actor or filmmaker, or maybe another world shaker like you guys.
Another blockbuster show on the Rick Santis program.
That's right. Thank you. All right. Good night, folks. We'll see you guys next week on Rick's Show on the Radio on SoFloRadio.com.
From high atop 1926 Hollywood Boulevard, you're listening to SoFloRadio.com.